Hi, I'm Shannon from houseimprovements.com, and in today's video I want to show you how to install a pocket door. We bought a universal fit type package, so everything basically comes in a box except the door you have to buy separately, and the latch as well. It's made to fit a variety of anything from a 36 to a 24-inch door. And there's a little bit of cutting you have to do to do that depending on your door, but it comes with all the brackets and the other miscellaneous hardware that you need. It also comes actually with some pretty good instructions, so if my package is a little different than yours, make sure you read your instructions, because there could be some variance from manufacturer to manufacturer. This is one that I use all the time, but in your area it could be different. One of the most important things about a pocket door that you need to do before anything is get your rough opening made. So in this case we're framing a brand new wall, and basically I just had to get the rough opening built so that when the frame and everything is cut and put together, it fits into this opening. So the instructions will give you some dimensions. In my case, I believe this was they wanted a total height of 82.5, I believe it is. No, 84.5. Now, one thing to think about there, because it's very important that your framework is all level and plumb. Okay, so when you're doing this, that's critical with a pocket door. Otherwise, when it closes and stuff, it's going to look all wonky in there. So when you're doing that, then I'll frame my wall, but when I put this in, I want to think about how unlevel my floor is. So if your floor is out of whack, even a quarter of an inch, you can't just measure up from the floor, because it's not going to be level. So I measured my height from my highest part of my floor, which happened to be over against that wall, measured it up, and then I used a level to get the point over here instead of measuring. And then after I did that, I just added in the blocks that I needed, whatever length they had to be. So anyways, it is critical that that's all got to be plumb and level. So I think that's basically the main gist. This opening, in most cases, it just needs to be whatever your door width is. In our case, we're using a 28-inch door. It needs to be double the door width plus an inch. Okay, so we're 57 inches from stud to stud, and that'll give you all the clearance you need. This should all be in your instructions too, but they'll set the height that you need, and it'll again give you a little bit of room to work with. So okay, so we've got that all done. I'm gonna get some sawhorses out. I'll show you what we do have to cut for this particular type of track, and then we can start installing. Okay, so in your kit, what you should find is you've got usually 4 stud pieces. So these are gonna go in here like this. There'll be a set right at the edge of the door. Our door is going to be here, and the pocket's going to be back there. So there's going to be a set of studs here and another set of studs about halfway. Like I said, we shouldn't have to cut these to length, but you should have 4 of those. You should have the little brackets. These get mounted to the floor and the studs fit into them. There's the rolling hardware and the miscellaneous is in that bag. And then of course the track. So with this particular brand, the track all comes ready to go, but it's got some markings on here for the different size doors, and kind of shows you where you have to cut, but the instructions also go through that as well. So the first thing I need to do is take this bracket off this end down here. And we'll just hang on to that, because we're going to have to put it back on once we get this cut to length. Okay, so we're using a 2'4" door, 28-inch door. And you can see right here on this header piece, we've got the 2'4" mark on it. So I got to cut through that wood, but only through the wood. Well, I guess it wouldn't matter, but the track actually gets cut shorter, and then that allows the bracket to go on, so your end would look just like the factory end did again. So we're going to cut the wood there, and then cut the aluminum track. I'm just going to use a reciprocating saw. Should do the job. Okay, so that got me through the wood. There's a couple screws holding it on there. And then I need to cut that aluminum track. I have it pre-marked out here. I think it was 1 3/8 inches or something shorter than the wood. Okay, got a little bit of a scar there. Oops. So that does that. Then on this end, actually we need to take that bracket off. No, we don't. I just need to cut the wood here. So what'll happen is I'm going to cut right here, and this is the exposed area where the door is. So in our case, actually it'd be like this, I guess, behind me. This is where the door is when it's closed, and this is the pocket area back there. So we just need to cut this wood out of the way here that goes up the sides. Not the top piece, just the side piece. Same thing on here. And they've got this stapled together, but these should just peel off of here. Okay, we can throw our bracket back on this end that we took off. So that just slips all together. Just bring it out flush to the end of the wood that you cut off. This hole is slotted where the screw goes, so on this one you can kind of get it close and then adjust it. Okay, just like so. Okay, so that's our framework for in the door. Now, for these guys, they have a simple way of kind of getting your height right. And this comes back to, like I said before, measuring from your header, which you know is level and not from the floor. They have a measurement that gives you a point over there that you put a flat-headed, like a shingle nail into, and that corresponds to this slot in the two brackets. So you can basically just take your frame then, get it mounted on those two shingle nails and rotate it into position, and it'll hang there until you get it fastened in permanently. I've got that all marked out. There's no point in me giving you those dimensions because yours could be different. Just check out your instructions, but I'll just start these. Like that. Any luck at all? This should just fit right in there. It's binding there a little bit. Okay, we'll just slide that back. This bracket down here just needs to be loosened off. Like I said before, it's slotted so it can be adjusted for length. Like so. Tighten that back up. Like that. Now there's a series of holes in there just to put some more nails in. Unfortunately, I didn't grab enough nails, but I'll have enough just to get it stabilized. So by sitting on that center nail, I should already be flush, which I am. These other nails are just to stabilize it from being tippy. One in there. Get one in each end. I'll have to grab some more nails off camera. Okay, so we've got our nails in there. I'm just going to throw the level on just to be sure that we're all nice and level. That looks good. I should have checked that beforehand, I guess, but. Okay, so we've got that all in there. And I was actually short a few nails, so I've got to get some more and put them in there, but it'll do what we need to do for now. We'll maybe reset the camera. I'm going to move some stuff out of the way. Okay, so these studs, like I said before, I've got that in backwards. Okay, I've got to pull that out. This end, I'm not sure if I said that right even in the beginning of the video. This end I've got to have over here. I've got this in backwards. Okay, cut. Okay, so we took our track piece off, flipped it around the correct way. And we did a few other things while we were off camera. One thing we need to determine is we need a line drawn across here. If you don't already have it from when you framed your wall, we need a line just to tell where the wall space is there. Okay, so just use a straight edge from end to end. Then use one of these studs again and a level. We need to determine the point from up here down to the floor. So just level down, plumb down, and get your mark marked on the floor. So it's the same as this up here. And then in the center of this opening, from here to here, we need another set of these studs put in. So I just did the same thing. I decided where I was going to have those, used the level on one of them inside, got a mark down there because you need to mount one of these brackets down there for the studs to go into. Okay, so we did mount that first bracket already and the studs. We're going to do this one here that's right at the edge of the door. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're working with cement floor here, concrete floor. So we've got to use a hammer drill and some concrete anchors. In our case, yours might just be a wood floor, more than likely. Okay, so I'm lining up the end of my bracket with that mark that we plumbed down here, and then with this pencil line that we just drew across here that represents the framing line. Okay, so I'll just get a couple marks here. If you're in a concrete floor and you've got in-floor heat or anything like that, you can't do this. You'd have to glue these brackets down to the floor. You don't want to drill into your heating system. Okay, so we've hit something in that hole, and I can't go any deeper with this bit, so I'm going to choose a different hole. There's 5 different holes here to kind of go from. So I'll try this one. Okay, so those should work. Tighten these fasteners down. Like so. Okay, and then on these studs, they've got wood inside of a metal case. The metal's to give it some strength. The wood is so you can still attach your drywall and that sort of thing. We need to mount these up there with a screw, so I'm going to pre-drill through the metal so that I don't spend all day trying to get through it. This floor is going to be redone, so I'm not too worried about that. I better put that in the drill. Okay. So basically these two prongs here just fit into the grooves on these studs. There's kind of a groove on there. Get it on there, like so. And this one's going to go right up against there. And we're just using a screw. Not all these screws are provided for this part, depending on your setup. The stud I already had drilled. Okay, so these make up the studs of your cavity where the door is going to slide between there. Before we get going along too far, these roller brackets, so these go up in the track and they leave a space here, at least these guys do, so you can get it in or out. When you put them in opposite like that, and it'll give your door a little bit more balance. Okay, so I'm just going to tuck those up in there. It's not a big deal, you can put them in any time, but I like to put them up there so I don't lose them. There's a bag of goodies here. We're going to have to come back once everything gets drywalled and everything, and actually hang the door and finish the opening to complete this video. So that'll be a little bit down the road. So what I usually do is I just take all these goodies, those rollers, and even the instructions, just kind of roll it all up, and I fit it up in the track if I can, so that I know where it all is. And it's easy to find. Usually if you, well, anyways, you get the idea. Tuck it up there somewhere where you know you can find it. So we'll come back when we're done with the drywall and ready to put the door in. Okay, we're back now. The drywall's been installed, as you can see, and primed. Unfortunately, it kind of whites everything out, being also that the door is white, so hopefully it's good enough that you can see what I'm doing. Just a quick touch on the door, or sorry, on the drywall. You want to use 1¼ screws, same like standard length screws, and if you do that, then there's no chance of them protruding through the back. That's why these studs have metal wrapped on them. Not only gives them a bit of strength, but it also keeps the screws from poking through and scratching the door. So there's wood strips in those metal studs that you've seen me just install, and you just simply drive the drywall screws, 1¼ drywall screws, right into that. So that shouldn't be an issue. I've got a few things basically prepped here so that we could skip ahead a little bit. I've got the jamb cut, so we're going to have a full width jamb that goes on this side once I get the door all in. Okay, so that's pretty simple. Then I took another one of those and I had to rip it into 2 strips, obviously, right? Because we need a pocket for that door to slide into. So these 2 go on this side. Generally speaking, what you want is take the thickness of your door, and you want about 3/16 or so of an inch on each side of it for space. So once you know the total thickness of your wall and your door and all that, you can figure out what you need for the strips. So there'll also be 2 of those type of strips, same width, that'll go up on the top here as well. Okay. Yeah, I'll touch on a little more detail on those after. I've got my door here, it's all painted. I've prepped up some of the stuff on it. One of the main things, and the hardware you'll find for this all comes with the track. There's a rubber bumper that you put on the back side of the door, so that's the end of the door that's going to slide right back inside. And it's just a rubber bumper to keep it from, you know, making a bunch of racket when it gets pushed open. And then up top on the door, I'll just kind of lean it over here so you can see. I've already mounted the upper hardware on it. So if I lean the door here, these little brackets, or whatever you want to call them, that's what the roller shaft fits into. So when the roller's up in the jamb and you hang the door on it, that just slides in there, and this little lock pushes over. Cameraman's telling me you can't really see. What if I turn to the side a little bit? So that stud there slips inside of this, like so, and then this little latch will push a little further than I just pushed it and clamp on there to keep them from falling off. Okay. These brackets, all this stuff comes with the track hardware. This particular one requested that these brackets are mounted 2 inches back from the edge of the door. That's pretty standard. Don't get too close to the edge of the door or the roller is going to fall out of the track. So you'll also notice that the top of the door has been at least primed to help seal it and keep it from warping and twisting. So make sure the top, all the edges, top, bottom, everything is done. Okay, so I'm just going to stand that door back up. It's just two screws. Again, they're supplied. That's all that holds those on there. So I think what we'll do, we'll reposition the camera a little closer, and I'll actually get the door hanging on those rollers, get it in the cavity, and then we can put the casing, or not the casing, the jambs all on. Okay, so I've got my 2 rollers back in here. You can see the stud just hanging down there that little bit. This first one, to get it hooked on, I try to come in on a pretty perpendicular angle so that I'm pushing against here, and it prevents the roller from scooting away on me while I'm getting that first one on. So I'll turn the door here a bit. Hopefully you can see all this. It's pretty tight quarters. So I've got that one kind of on there, and I flip the little lock. Now you got to be careful, especially if your door is all pre-finished like mine is, getting it in there, because if you rub on those metal studs too much, it's going to leave a mark. Then got to hold that up there far enough in order to get that one slid in. And at that point, the door is basically hanging. Let me put my knife away before I cut my arm off. The door is basically hanging. It's just a matter of getting that lock pushed over like that so it clips right on. Now when we put the trims all on, you'll notice that we're going to put the side jambs up first, and they're going to go right to the top, and the header jam piece is going to fit between them. And the reason for that is you're going to have to take this piece off if you ever have to take this door on and off or adjust it. So you need to be able to get it off without taking, all the jambs off. So, okay, so I've got that basically hanging in there. I'm just carefully trying to get it between the studs without rubbing. And like so. So not too much to getting that hanging on there. Now we can basically just push that back out of the way for right now, and we can deal with the jambs. Okay, so we'll put these jambs on. That's just like any jam, you want to be flush with the surface of the wall. Okay, so that's, earlier in the video I mentioned about how important it is to have everything plumb and as straight as you can. And that's why, because, if you can attach that right to that stud without having to shim or anything, it'll make your installation so much easier. And once we go to align the door, we'll be able to see, if this is pretty good. You'll almost always have a little bit of, wave to it or whatever, but main thing is you want to be as plumb as you can. Now on this side, I've already put the inside one on, but on this, what you're actually doing is you've only got this little window here in the metal, and there's some wood back there to nail into. In fact, in this one, the wood's almost missing. But so take your pieces here first off, and measure and mark your nail locations, so that you can hit those, because obviously once you hold this in place, you can't see those, right? Okay, so mark out your locations. I generally like to use a little bit of some kind of adhesive here as well, just to tack it on there a little bit more. You should basically not have to take this one off. So I'll just put a few dabs right on that metal, because you know we can only get, I don't know what they've got those spaced apart, 16 or 18 inches apart. Don't put so much on that it squirts out and you get it on your door, but just get some on there to help hold it between the nails. Okay, so same thing with this one. We're just putting this edge flush. Now when I ripped this down, I also sanded and painted the inside edge, because you can see even when the door's, you know, pushed back, you can kind of see that edge. So okay, so I'm just going to get that kind of held in place. Like so. You'll notice as I'm nailing these, I'm keeping my hands well back. I've got the safety glasses on, because if this veers off and hits that metal or whatever, if nothing else, the end of that nail is going to ricochet back and come out somewhere and stab you. Okay, so that all glued on there. I can see I've actually got a little bit of glue sticking out there. I'm just going to use my knife blade and just wipe it flat right now while I'm thinking of it, so that we don't get it on the door like I had just mentioned a minute ago. The ones seem fine, it was just those couple. Okay, so we've got those two in place. Now the upper ones. I won't deal with the one on that side, you don't really need to see me do it twice. So basically this wants to be cut so it fits between those two, and so that it also can be taken off if you have to get that door out, if you ever have to, or to do the adjustment. Actually, I guess I should adjust the door before we get that one in the way. Let's back up a little bit. So in your kit, you should end up with a little wrench of some kind of tool that works on those studs up there. Just get our door close to closed. So if you look down there, I think we're pretty good. We're actually really good. I would call that definitely good enough. We got a little bit of space here. We could play with that a little bit. Yeah, we're actually good. Normally though, you know, you might have the top or the bottom hitting first. You know, the door might be not hanging quite level, or maybe the side is off a little bit. So what you want to do is just use this little wrench up in here, and that basically adjusts. It's basically a screw stud type thing that you hung that on, and it's gonna, actually if you look right at the bottom when I'm turning this one, you might be able to see that I'm kind of moving and adjusting that gap there a little bit. It's very minute, the little bit that I'm turning it. Just like so. So you just adjust the two till you get an even space there, and you're happy with it. Or we got kind of lucky and everything. That just shows that I guess those were adjusted pretty straight from the factory, because I haven't played with anything yet. But if they're straight, then we're all level and plumb. So okay, so we got that in. I'll throw this top piece in, and then we can show how to install the latch. So I'll just put this one in here. They recommend, if you read the instructions, they actually recommend, and they send screws for it, pre-drilling and attaching this with screws into this piece of wood that was already mounted on the track frame. And that's just so it's easier to get on and off if you ever have to. Really, once you've adjusted this the first time and everything's fine, there's probably not much chance you're ever going to take it off. So what I do, I don't glue this, but I'll just brad nail it on, because the brad nails you can always pry loose if you have to take it off. So I usually just brad nail it because I can fill those holes nicer than a big, you know, number 6 screw hole. Okay, so this is just the same as all the other, just flush to the face of the drywall. Brad nail it up there. Okay, just like so. And I'd obviously just go around and fill all those little holes and retouch the paint up after. Okay, so we've got all those on. Before I get to the latch, I'll show you what we do with the guides. There's two little plastic guides that go down here at the bottom, so the camera will have to come right down in here. So these little guides, just kind of a wedged piece of plastic with this slotted area on the back. And what they do is they go on either side down here at the bottom edge of the door. And you just adjust them until you get a nice even gap on either side of the door, and it all works without binding and rubbing anywhere. So once you're happy with what you've got, that's why they're tapered. And you don't want it wedged right up tight because the door has to be able to move in and out too. I don't know if you can really even see what I'm doing there. Probably once I get the screws in, you can get a better shot. But so I'm just pulling those up to where I'm happy with the spacing on each side of the door and that. And using the supplied screw to install it. Okay, like so. I'll do the same thing on the other side, and then I'll let the camera guy get a shot of it for you guys. Actually, that one probably has got to come up just a bit more. That's why they're slotted, so it allows you a little bit of adjustment. Oh, come on, screw, cooperate. So you can see that takes the wobble out of the door and just acts as a guide to keep it from rattling around or rubbing on the sides. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is that we're going to actually install a latch up here. Now the latch doesn't come with the door. There's a few different styles. There's a round one and there's this one. So you've got to purchase that separately. And we'll just get to kind of reset here and I'll show you how to do it. Okay, so we've got our little latch here, and depending on what latch you use, just follow the instructions. They'll be right on the package as far as whether you're drilling a round hole, or in this case we're cutting out with the jigsaw kind of the C-shaped area. So all I did was centered it in this style here on the door, this rail. Is where I wanted it. You could put it wherever you want. So, okay, so I'm just going to use the jigsaw and cut that all out and install the latch. I've got the tape on there just to protect the door. Okay, so we've got the latch all notched in there. There's no real trick to that. This is a locking latch, and most of them will be. So you've actually got a little thing here, so when the door is right back, you can get a hold of it to get the door out for one thing. But you've also got this latch here that's going to hook in on this side to hold the door closed. I'm just going to mark with some pencil on the end of it. And then when I slide it over here and operate it a couple times, it should leave basically a mark for a reference for me to get things lined up. Okay, so I'm not sure that you'll pick that up on camera, but it left me a mark right here. Okay, now the other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to slide the door closed again. I should just double check. Usually the latch plate is the same, same size as the end of this latch on the door. So once I close the door, if I can just use that as a reference to get the height. So I'm going to close it. I'm just making a pencil mark. This is the bottom there. So this is all just to get myself a reference. Okay, now from that those marks there, I can determine exactly where this goes. So one gives me center of this opening. And actually, I should mention, you can notice that this opening is offset in there as well. And so you want it offset to the upward position. And what happens is then the latch swings in there and hooks in on the bottom part. So just in case I forgot to mention that later. Okay, so I'm just lining it up with my 2 marks there. And what I'm going to do is hold it there still. I'm actually going to use my knife to trace it out. And this will leave a nice fine mark on the jamb for us to cut to. Trick is not moving that at all. Okay, so I got that in there. Now I've got to drill a hole, and I just kind of forget. I think it's in the center of that. Yeah, center of the mortise. So the mortise is this slot here. So I'm going to just roughly with my pencil or with my eye mark center height-wise in that mortise as well, because we need to drill a bit of a hole there too. And that's just to allow room for that latch to go in. So we've got our knife line. I'm just going to run through it again to make sure it's visible when I remove the tape. And this is just going to get cut out with a chisel, because we want to notch it back the thickness of this latch so it's sitting back in there flush, hopefully. Now these jambs are MDF. MDF isn't the nicest stuff to chisel with and create a mortise into. It's kind of tricky compared to real wood, but we'll see how we make out. So I'm going to drill this hole. I believe it says to go 1/2 inch deep-ish, and that was centered with the latch hole. Must be real close there. Okay, I think we'll stop right there. I can remove my tape because my knife lines should be cut into the MDF for us to follow. This tape peeled off. Okay, like so. Then I'll just take the chisel and my hammer, and I'm just going to try to get just ever so little bit out. In fact, I'm going to score it again once more with my knife. Cutting it with the knife should get it deep enough for the thickness of the plate that we're using. This is likely the most challenging part of the whole install, is just doing this little plate here. Okay, so we'll see how we make out. Okay, so usually your initial little bit will just peel right out, and you can just finely tune it from there. I think my knife cut real good right down there. Come on. If your chisel's good and sharp, it'll really help this process as well. You just have to be careful not to go too far and rip out a big chunk where you don't want it out. So then you're going to have to fill it and retouch up all the paint. Just keep your latch close by and just keep fitting it as you go. So I'm close. Just work away at it till you get it right. So once you get the fit you want, there's a couple screws to install. I actually have my doubts whether that latch is going to latch. I can see that my drilled hole there is kind of obstructing the opening a little bit, so I'm just going to chisel this down a little bit extra to give it a little more room. Not so sure that centering in that hole was exactly the right thing. That should give me a little bit of room for it to latch. Okay, so we'll just see if it operates correctly. Well, we got lucky, we got it the first try. So yeah, just you know, if you have to do any final little adjustments or whatever, one little hint that I'll pass on, that sometimes if you get this latch too high, what you can do is actually take a die grinder and just grind out that notch just a little bit more to make it work. Or even flip it around, since it's offset, you might get lucky. All right, I think we've got the main stuff done. We're just going to show you a view from inside here, because we don't have drywall on this side, just so you can kind of see the door opening and closing in the wall. Okay, so we don't have this side of the room drywalled, and we'll just kind of show you so you can see the mechanism up there. You can see the rollers. Well, you might not be able to see the rollers, but you can see the space there because we don't have that top trim piece in. You can see our latch down here. Okay. And then you can just see as it slides into the wall. Now typically this would be covered, obviously, right? But so what it does is just slides right in the wall. This bumper here eventually contacts back there to keep the door from going too far in. In fact, this is a little far in for my liking, and since I have the wall open, I'll probably put an extra little piece of wood there just to, I like to keep the door just out just that little bit, like you see on this edge here. That's about how I'd like to see it. Right now with the bumper, it actually pushes in pretty far. Now, not really a big deal because you've got this built into the latch too to get a hold of it, but just for looks, I like when it looks something like that. Okay, so you can kind of see the operating parts of it. Well, that's our video on installing a pocket door. Hopefully you found it informative and helpful. If you've already done a pocket door before, or maybe you're going to complete your pocket door project after you've watched our video, make a comment below and let us know how it turned out. Hopefully the tips that I gave you will save you a little bit of headache along the way and speed up the process for you. Also, if you like the video, you can click the thumbs up button just below here and subscribe to our channel as well, and then you can follow us on and watch all of our great videos. You can, if you have any questions, you can go to our forum. You can post all your questions on the forum and I'll be sure to answer you from there. If you haven't got sick of me by then, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And just see what else is going on in our day-to-day lives here at houseimprovements.com. We've also got a Patreon campaign going, so if you'd possibly like to sponsor, you can look at that as well. So thanks a lot for watching, and hopefully your next project goes well.